Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are making it a great day. I am Ryan, the Life Changer, and you are about to have your life changed. Whether you're having a bad day, a good day, or maybe you're just starting your day, my passion is to have a positive impact in your life. This podcast is called Unlock the Power of Your Mind. It is designed to help you harness your inner greatness and to inspire you to be the best version of you possible. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope this helps to change your life. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining me for another episode of Unlock the Power of Your Mind. Today, I am super excited to have with me John Meadows. John is a father, a husband, founder of Mountain Dog Training and Diet, founder of Granite Supplements, and he is an IFBB Pro. John, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you. Good to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for your time. So I want to kind of dive in and John, obviously I know you've had a tremendous amount of success in the bodybuilding and fitness arena. If it's okay with you today, I want to dive in a little bit more to John Meadows, the man and the individual, and a little bit of your mindset that helped to contribute to your success in bodybuilding and overall life. How does that sound?
Yeah, man, whatever you want to talk about, it's all fair game.
Awesome. So let's give the listeners just a little bit of a backstory about, your early childhood. I know that you had faced some adversities there. Share with the listeners young John and what he faced.
Well, I think probably the one of the things that really shaped who I am was my upbringing, and I didn't have a father. At least I never met him. I don't know who he is. And I had a mother that was an alcoholic, a drug addict that really wasn't in my life much at all. But I had a really awesome grandmother that raised me, and she was one of those grandmothers. You probably know a few that just sees the good in everybody. And she was a really hard worker. She was a cook at a restaurant. Made $3 or $4 an hour, and that's kind of how we grew up. I never felt like I never felt poor, I guess is the word for it. We didn't really have much, but I was very happy. It's funny. I collected Star Wars toys. Whenever we had some money, I'd, try to pick up Star Wars toy. And now my boys are into it. Hopefully they're not making too much noise in the background, but they want to know, Dad, which was the first one you got? Did you have this? Did you have that? It's just a constant questions they ask me about my Star Wars toys.
That's awesome.
I had a good grandmother though. She worked double shifts much of the time. I'd wake up in the morning, breakfast would be ready. I'd come home, and when she would get home, whatever food that she would bring back food that didn't get eaten at the restaurant. And I saw that, and I saw how hard she was working, and I wanted to make her proud, quite honestly. So I didn't get into too much trouble. I was a really good student. I was in track. I was actually a sprinter. I ran the 100, 200, and actually pole vaulted. I was in football. I was a fullback and a linebacker. Hey, shut my door for me. You guys are about to go crazy. And what else did I do? I was in wrestling up until I got to high school. I dropped out of that because I really didn't like rolling around the mat with a sweaty guy. If it had been a sweaty girl, I probably would have stuck with it. I was in, football and track were the main things. I was heavy into bodybuilding already at that point. But, so growing up, I was in a lot of sports. In the summer when I was out of school, I would pick up, just like all the other kids do, their little job. And I worked for the city schools for a little bit, mowing. I ran a jackhammer one summer. I worked in a car factory one summer. So I worked at a car wash. I was always trying to pick up a little extra money in the summer, but busy. I was a busy kid. Always trying to get better. I was very, very focused on the athletic stuff, and I wanted to be an athlete. And I was just a really, really hard worker, man. I just saw the example my grandmother set. was something I think I emulated. And I think all those things served me well.
If there was, obviously besides hard work, if there was maybe a mental fortitude or something that you would say that you took away from your grandmother mindset wise, John, what would it be?
Well, the thing about my grandmother was, she would see the good in everybody, and it was kind of okay to lose as long as you're working hard and doing your best. And part of that rubbed off on me, and part of it didn't. I wanted to work hard. I wanted to outwork everybody, but I didn't like losing. And I wanted to be really, really good at something. And I felt like deep in my heart, probably everybody has feelings like this at some point in their life, but I felt like in my heart I could do something special. I didn't know what that was. But, like in gym class, when all the other kids would go out to gym, I would ask the gym instructor, can I just run laps, around the school? Or, I was always trying to get better. I would get out of study hall so I could go either run laps, or I could run sprints, or I could sneak off to the weight room there that the school had. I was always obsessed with trying to be really good at something. And I wasn't the smartest kid. I mean, I did graduate really, real high in my class, but it wasn't because I was that smart. It was just because I studied hard. But I felt like, man, there's something in sports I can do that if I just work hard enough, I can be good at it. And, I was in track, and, at one point I woke up and realized I was a short white guy and I probably wasn't going to make it to the Olympics in spring. And, in football, I actually wanted to walk on at Michigan, and I actually applied to go there, and they actually turned me down academically, which was crazy because I had a 4.64 GPA, and and I got attached to a sport killer, a girlfriend that I didn't want to get away from. So I ended up just going to college and focusing on bodybuilding. And I was going there for pre-medicine. I always wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. And at that point, that's what I wanted to be anyways. But I still thought I can do this bodybuilding thing. I know I can do it. I was, 19 years old in college, and I won my first contest. Wasn't the first contest I've done, but it was the first one that I won. And when I turned 20, I was still in college, and I won 2 men's overalls. And then I went on a winning streak, and I won my class at like every show I did for probably 3 years. And I felt like, man, this isn't so bad. I think I'm going to become a pro pretty easy. Now, if you know my background and my story, it wasn't that easy.
Definitely not easy.
But that's what it was like when I was younger. I was watching videos of Lee Haney, and I was like, and the guy I could really identify with was Rich Gaspari. I thought I can be like that. I can be hard. I can be vascular. I can be strided. I can diet hard. I can do that. And I was really motivated to become like that.
Awesome. So, that's really what I most respect you for, John, is that struggle that you had and how you just didn't give up. Listening to your videos and hearing some of your interviews, it's like, man, you just didn't stop and you faced a whole bunch of adversity. So let's kind of dive into that, where, you share with us, I think it was in 2005, that Mr. USA prep, where
Yep.
you started to have some health issues.
Yeah, it was it was crazy. Here I was at, I don't know, what's that? I was 33 years old, and I had done the North American the year before. I'd done really well, and I was anticipating on doing really well at that USA. And by the way, a guy named Phil Heath won my class. I don't know if you've heard of him or not.
Yeah, he might be pretty good.
He did all right for himself. But I was out doing my cardio in the morning, and I felt like I had to go to the bathroom, and then I would come inside, and kind of nothing would happen. But it was weird. And then it turned into kind of some pain, and it progressed and got worse. And it got to the point where I really couldn't even eat. And I was a couple weeks out. I remember I went out to the LA Championships, which was kind of a big springboard for the USA. And I remember out there, and I I was on my own. My wife was, her parents were having their 50th wedding anniversary here, and that was a really big deal. So her family was all here. So I was out there in California by myself. And I was in a hotel. Honestly, I thought I was going to die out there. I was really, really worried. I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't eat. And I called my doctor, actually, Dr. Serrano, and I was like, man, something's bad. And he knows I got a pretty high pain threshold. So he got worried, and he was like, well, do your shows and get home. So I did the USA a week later, and like I literally didn't even eat the week leading up to the USA. I'd have like 2 ounces of food at a time. And I remember getting on the plane. I was in a lot of pain. I remember sitting in the Las Vegas airport, curled up in a ball. And I got home and I thought, man, everything's going to be okay now. It was just stress. It was just my diet. And I'm going to be fine now. That's all it was. That's what went through my mind. But it didn't get better. And a couple of days later, actually, I got home on a Sunday. Monday morning, I went to my doctor's office, Serrano, and he looked at me, and he didn't even say anything to me. He just told the office to call the Life Squad, like without even asking me anything. And
Wow.
so the Life Squad came, and they took me to the hospital. I ended up being in the emergency room 3 times. That was the first time, and a week or 2 later, I just kept going back. I can't even begin to tell you how much pain I was in my stomach. And the 3rd time, they were trying to discharge me again, and my wife was like, "No, he's not leaving until you guys figure out what's wrong with him." And I started bleeding profusely, really, really bad, and I started going into shock. And I was with it enough to know I was in shock, but it was really, really scary. But at that point, I was like, okay, I stood up out of the bed. I saw it. I'm not going to get into the detail where the blood was coming from, but I'm sure you can imagine where.
Sure.
And there was just a pile of blood on the ground, and I was like, I can't survive that. That looks like a lot of blood. So I told my wife to get a notebook. The nurse literally took off running out of the room. And when she came in, my wife had pulled her notebook out. They put me on a bed. They prepped me real fast, and they started wheeling me to emergency surgery. And I told my wife, I gave her kind of some last messages for my friends, because at that point, I just thought, I'm not waking up. This is it. I've had a good life. Make sure you tell all my friends. I'll miss them. And that was it. So very emotional. And then I woke up and I was in ICU, and I thought I was in a dream. And I looked at the nurse and I was like, wow, is this heaven? Am I still alive? And she was like, oh, honey, you're in ICU. You're at Mount Carmel East Hospital. And I was like, really? Like, I'm alive? And she was like, yeah. And I was super happy. I was super excited, because when I woke up and when I realized I was alive, I remembered when I was getting wheeled away that I was thinking I'm not going to be alive. So it was incredible. It's like, man, I got a second chance. And I looked down, and I had like all kinds of tubes in me in every orifice you can imagine, but I was alive. So I was super excited. I was super happy. The nurses were like, we've never seen somebody this happy in ICU before. And I was like, I thought I was going to die. And they were like, well, you were close. So anyways, the doctor came in. He goes, yeah, you probably had 5 or 10 minutes, and that would have been it. And then the process of coming back started. I had a lot of setbacks. I had an ileostomy while I was in emergency surgery. They removed my entire colon. That's your large intestine. And so my ileum was actually pulled through my stomach wall, and I had a bag attached. So I went back after 4 months. I had that removed, reconnected my ileum straight to my rectum. And there was some scar tissue from the first surgery that created problems. And then I had another surgery for that. And then I got an infection from having the surgery so close. And at the end of the day, this took from, would have been August, I think, was the first surgeries. And it was all the way until January, until I got out of the hospital on a full-time basis. And I had went down to 165 pounds right now, ballpark. And that's really when the process of coming back started. And I had to truly start from scratch at that
Yeah. Let's go back just for a second for some of the listeners that maybe aren't as familiar with bodybuilding. And John, this is why I have so much respect for you. For the listeners that aren't familiar with what it's like to prep for a bodybuilding show, I mean, every single thing has to be on point. Your sleep, your training, your diet, and certainly 2-ounce meals would not be what you would normally be doing preparing up for a show, right?
Absolutely not. Nope.
Absolutely not. So just the fortitude that you had, the drive that you had to say, you know what, I don't care how much pain I'm in. I don't care if I'm all alone. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to get up on stage. I mean, that is just absolutely incredible. I have so much respect for you for that, John. That is just unbelievable.
Well, I had that dream ever since I was a kid, and the USA was the springboard to accomplishing my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal was just to get a pro card, and at that show you could get a pro card. So, I had placed in the top 5. I'd been in the first call out twice at that show, and I had just been in the first call out at the North American, Mr. North America, and was pretty close to winning my pro card there. So that was it. I was like, man, I don't care how bad this hurts. I don't care if I have to not eat for 2 weeks. I'm going to follow through and do it. And, so at that point it was going to take death, truthfully, to keep me from getting on stage.
Yeah.
As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, no. So I want to talk about your mindset, because when I was listening to the interview and you said you were the happiest guy in ICU and you were smiling, I mean, that is really so powerful, because there's so many people, John, in your shoes that would have just said, well, that's it. I'm done. I mean, what's going through your mind? Obviously, yes, you're happy to be alive, but like, walk us through mentally what's in your mind. Are you already planning, like, okay, well, this is what I have to do when I get out of here? I mean, where's your mindset at?
Well, I'm going to tell you a couple of the things that really made a huge impression on me. The number one thing was I was truly just excited to be alive. I think sometimes we just get beat down by our problems and we wonder about our existence, and we're just not real thrilled about life in general. And so I truly was really happy to just be alive. And at that point, I wasn't thinking about competing. I thought, I've got all these tubes in me and all this stuff, and I don't know of anybody that's competed with a ileostomy. I just didn't know at that point, and I honestly I wasn't really worried about it. But so a couple of things happened. So I've got a training partner that I've trained with since I want to say about 1998, and we still train together. He was at the hospital every single day. He would get off work, he would come by the hospital. I had other friends that were showing up. I had some friends from work that was showing up. I had a lot of people. I had a lot of friends show up, and I remember when I just explained this to you, but I think it's worth mentioning again. When I was getting wheeled in ICU, the most important thing was I wanted my friends to know that I would miss them and that I really, really appreciated them. So it just became so impressed upon me at that point, and then again afterwards, of how important your friends are, how important. I told you my story about my family. My friends are my family, and I didn't have a mom and dad and all that, but I had really good friends, and that is family to me. That's what I consider family. And it really, really made a heavy impression on me that how important your friends are. It was I don't want to say a total enlightenment, because I think we all know we have good friends, but I can't imagine life without any friends. I can't even imagine it, because you just have so many rich experiences with them, and so many good experiences. It's just a great thing. The other thing I realized was, at some point I was going to have to go back to work, because at the time I was working for JP Morgan Chase, and I knew at some point I was going to have to go back to work, and I was in a pretty high level position, and it was very stressful. I was running projects very, very very big projects for Chase that were very stressful. And then another epiphany kind of hit me. All that stuff I'd been worried about, like it really wasn't that big of a deal. If this project had this issue and that issue, as long as customers were still getting their money and it wasn't affecting customers, and everything was going to be okay. So I kind of had this mindset of, a lot of these things that we think are big deals in life, they're really not that big of a deal. And it gave me a little different perspective on what a big deal is and what I should worry about and what I shouldn't worry about. And so when you combine that with the importance of my friends, those were really kind of the things that weighed on my mind and it really impacted how I think and how I act, hopefully, these days from that experience.
Wow. So powerful. I can certainly relate with that. When you go through difficult times, you get to see who your friends are. You get to really understand the true definition of friendship and what it means to be selfless. So 100%. So now walk us through, I think you said you were pretty much just doing air squats and hammer curling 8-pound dumbbells because your body was, of course, atrophied. The muscles were atrophied so much. Kind of walk the listeners through what that was like, not only physically, but mentally as you start to, go after your goal again.
Well, I was incredibly weak, man. And I had lost a lot of blood. And I couldn't even stand up for longer than 5-10 minutes at one point. Eventually I got EPO, the stuff that the cyclists take that regenerates red blood cells. I eventually got some of that and got my red blood cell count and hemoglobin back up to normal. But I was incredibly weak, and I would go out on my back porch and I would hold on to the hand railing and I would just do body weight squats. I'd try to get, 10 or 15 if I could. I had a little pair of dumbbells, a little pair of 5-pound dumbbells, I think I was trying to curl. And I did get back to the gym, and I remember getting on the leg extension machine. I remember my very first workout back. I came in, I've always loved training legs, right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to train legs. So I went in, I got on the leg extension machine, and I could only do one plate. So I don't remember if that was 40 pounds or whatever it was. But on the selectorized machines where I think the stack was probably 260, 240 pounds, I could do one plate. So I could do like 40 pounds, and my legs were shaking like I'd never lifted a weight before. And I remember one of the trainers came over, and, she was really nice, and she was like, glad you're back. I'm surprised you came back. I mean, I'd feel kind of weird, the way what the things you used to do and obviously what you can do now. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm back in the gym. I'm back where I love to be. I said, I'm thrilled. I don't care if I can leg extension 40 pounds. I'm back. I love it here. And that's how I feel today still. I still love the gym. And that's one of the things that carried me on to be successful was I truly love the sport. I truly love bodybuilding. And I think a lot of people now, they don't really like the sport. They like the attention they get from social media, or they like the attention they get from girls or boys. It was never about that for me. I really, really liked bodybuilding. I liked it in its purest form, just training hard, pushing yourself as hard as you could. So, I started doing those leg extensions, and I had a little log, and the next time I would do, that 40 pounds, I might do it 20 times, and then I might go up to 80 pounds, and it kind of started. And over the course of about a year and a half, I built myself back up from 165 to probably about 210, 215. Right around that ballpark, and was feeling pretty good. And that was sometime late, I think in 2007, and then I ended up eventually getting back on stage. And when I did, my idea at the time was I'm just going to get back out there one more time and kind of go out on my terms. And it was pretty cool. My wife was pregnant with our twins. She was 32 weeks pregnant at the time. I didn't feel any pressure. It was the first time I'd done a contest where I literally didn't feel pressure, as long as I can remember anyway. And I ended up winning my class at a show and doing pretty well. And, I was going to retire at that point. because I thought the scarring on my stomach and things like that, I thought that would keep me from a pro card. So I was going to retire just because I didn't think aesthetically I had a pleasing enough look with the scars and things like that to become a pro. But I wasn't about to quit training. So I kept training, and the next thing I know, I'm getting a little better. I'm getting a little better. And then I'm like, man, I think I might be better than 2005. I think I might actually have a better chance now. So I kept fighting, man. I just kept fighting. Went back. I turned 40 in 2012. I did the Masters Nationals. I looked really, really good. I don't remember how many guys are in my class, somewhere between 15 and 25. And I got second place. And then at that point, it was on. It was like, okay, I can do this, and I'm not going to stop until I get it done.
So it was your passion for bodybuilding that kind of was what helped to keep your mindset. I mean, you were just so happy and feeling so blessed to be back in the gym that it really didn't matter. You didn't feel embarrassed. You didn't feel frustrated. It was your passion that kept you going. Am I hearing you correctly?
100%. And I know it's probably hard for people to believe that I didn't feel embarrassed, but I've never been one of those guys that had to be big and hard year round. And I think that contributed, honestly, to my longevity in the sport. I don't do the things that some of these guys do, and I was able to maintain my health outside of my very significant scare. But I just never, my self-image was based on the kind of person I was. It wasn't based on what my arms measured or anything like that. That was just a competitive fire in me. That's all that was. I wanted to be good at something. And when I competed, that was my opportunity to be good. So, yeah, I mean, it drove me really, really hard. And then again, when you get to that second place point, it's like, okay, now this is right in front of your face. So, then I really had I don't want to say a second win. That's probably not the right word for it, but maybe it is. I had a second win. I was really fired up. Like, man, I'm going to make this happen. And I never really thought this is a pretty cool story coming back from the illness and all that. No magazines wanted to interview me. They didn't really care. And it wasn't until I got my pro card, I don't even think people knew. Then all of a sudden, everybody's like, man, we had no idea you went through this. And so then I got interviews with all the magazines. I had a really cool feature in muscular development when I did the Arnold Classic. But it was like people didn't even know. I was just, like I told you, I was working at Chase. So I would compete on Saturday. Sunday, I'd fly home. Monday, I was back at work, and life was back. I wasn't one of these guys out in California that was living in Gold's Gym and training people and living the lifestyle. I was living a job. I mean, I was working, a normal first shift job, and I'd get off work and train and then come home and eat and read what was going on the message boards and go to bed and do it all over again.
Wow. It's just so incredible now that looking back, you didn't even think about it like that. It was just, hey, man, I want to be the best. I want to get my pro card. I'm happy to be here. This is my passion. And you didn't look back. I mean, that is just so incredible. So let's go to 2013, I believe it was, where you came really close, and then there was a guy who kind of went back on what it was he said, you and he had agreed upon. I know you guys are okay now. Just talk to me about what your mentality was like during that time. I think it was the Masters 35 and over and 40 and over.
Yeah, that was 2014, I believe. Yeah, it was crazy. I competed, and kind of where you stand when you see people backstage, and it was pretty obvious that me and this other guy were going to be the top two, and we were both in the over 35 and over 40, and we were talking. He was pretty new to the sport, and we were talking, and I said, if one of us wins, then the other person will also get their pro card, because the person, when you win your pro card, you step out, you're not in the other class. That's just how it works. And we were both pretty excited because we both felt like, well, man, we're both going to walk out of here pros. And so, we went through prejudging and, then the finals, and then the finals in the first class, he places ahead of me. And then in the second class, I mean, I'm already super excited. I'm like, okay, he's got his pro card based on the call outs. I'm clearly the number one guy now. And that means I will win my class and I will then become a pro. And it was right in front of me. So they're lining us up backstage and he gets in line. I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing in line? And he goes, well, Mannion told me I had to compete in both classes. And I was like thinking in my head, that's not right. Listen, man, I wasn't born yesterday. Well, I've been in this sport a long time. I know everybody, dude. So I knew the expediters. I knew everybody. And the expediter tells me, John, that is not true. They told him that he should step out of the class, and he said, no, I'm not going to step out of the class. I won an overall. I won another title. And they argued a little bit about back and forth, but at the end of the day, the guy paid his entry fee, so they just let him do it. And I found that out, man. I was really ticked. Like, that's what I'd worked my whole life for, and it was right in front of my face. And then I kind of felt like the carpet got pulled out in front of me, or pulled out from under me. And so I was pretty ticked. I was really mad. I was frustrated for a long, long time. And anybody who knows me will tell you I don't get mad about hardly anything. But I was really upset. I use it as a motivator, but I'm not going to lie to you, man. I was pretty ticked off. His name is John. And, he since apologized sincerely, and we're cool now. We have no issues at all. I see him at the shows now, and it's actually good to see him now. And, when somebody does something wrong, I look at it this way, man. I've done a lot of things wrong, and I hope when I apologize, I hope people forgive me. And he was sincere. I could tell 100% he was sincere, and he felt bad. So I just said, hey, man, it's water under the bridge now. And it is. It truly is. So there's no hard feelings. But things worked out from there. But that's the story of that frustration.
Wow. Incredible. So, as I'm listening to this story, and I'm sure as the listeners are listening, it's like, man, he just kept going. No matter how many times life tried to knock John Meadows down, he just kept moving forward. Like, what's the mindset? Because that has to go beyond passion. If you had to tie it back to one other thing, besides passion and besides, okay, that was what it was that you wanted, what would be the one other thing that you were telling yourself in your head to just keep pushing?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I always kind of felt like there was more to give. Like, I never felt like this is all I can do. That's the best I can do. I can't do any better. I always felt like I can do better. Like, every time I fell short, I was a little frustrated, but I thought I can do better. I know I can get better. And that's one of the reasons why I became a very, I think, good student of the sport. And eventually I started I was doing coaching all along, but how I became a pretty good coach is I had to really think and solve problems. And the problems that I had to solve to get better weren't in a textbook. They weren't in any certification. And it forced me to get really good. When you're at 95% of your potential, how do you get that another 2%, 3%, 4%? But I never really felt like, okay, I'm maxed out. I can't get any better. I was always like, I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to figure out how I can get better. I'm going to put a plan in place. I'm going to follow the plan, and then we're going to see what happens. And I guess I wouldn't take no for an answer, and I never would accept the fact that I just couldn't get any better.
There we go.
I just always felt like, where there's a will, there's a way. I can figure this out. I can get better. I know I got narrow clavicles. I know I got a wide pelvic girdle. I know I'm not the most genetically gifted specimen, but you know what, man? I'm going to figure out how to maximize what I can do in this sport, and that continued for many years.
That makes a lot of sense, John, what you said about I still have more to give, because I know I've been guilty of it so many times in my life where it's like you're 95% of the way there and you feel like you did a pretty good job. You left almost everything out on the table. and people say, well, you know what? I gave it 95% because the truth of the matter is that last 5%, that was the percent that you had to work the hardest for, right?
Oh, 100%, man. 100%. Yes, sir. Yep.
It's so powerful. So talk a little bit about, obviously, hey, now you got the pro card. We can't not add that part of the story in. Talk about the pro card and then, the success that you've had in not only bodybuilding, but growing an amazing personal brand and of course, Granite supplements.
Well, I tell you, man, so I came back after that experience in 2014 and I laid a plan out, and I know I was getting a little older. I was in my early 40s, but I really felt like I was one of the best heavyweights in the country, if not the best. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go do the nationals, the open class. I'm going to compete against all these 20 something year olds, and I'm going to whoop all their asses. So and the reason why I wanted to do that, I knew that at the time the NPC was kind of going with the young guys, trying to get more young blood into the sport. And I knew I probably wouldn't win, but what it would do is if you can make that top group at the nationals, which is the toughest show in the country, then when I went to the Masters show, I would have immediate respect. Like, that guy, not only is he a good Masters competitor, he went in and he almost won the nationals, like beating everybody. So that was my plan, and I did that. I executed on it. I got to the nationals. I was the most conditioned at heavyweight in the show. I was in the first call out, and people were like, "Man, you beat a lot of really awesome guys," and blah blah blah. But I did that to set me up for the Team Universe, which was the Master show that was coming up. So then the Team Universe rolled around, and I was absolutely at my best, 100%. I'd done all my homework. I had worked hard. I left no stone unturned. I felt very good headed into that show. And so prejudging came along, and I was in the middle the whole time, which is when you compete in bodybuilding, that's where you want to be. There's a certain position they put you on stage, which can kind of tell you your placing. And when you're in the middle of the first group, that generally says you're either going to win or you're very close to winning. So they put me in the middle of both groups, the over 35 and the over 40, and it didn't move me, which means they didn't really feel like they needed to compare me to other people. And that was the first show I had done that I can remember for maybe 15, 20 years where I thought, you know what, I'm going to win. Because all those other shows, it's like, I don't know, man. And all those second places I got, we didn't talk about those, but I had a lot of second places, and I didn't think I had won any of those. I was like, I don't think so. I think I'm probably in second or third, and my instinct was right. I was in second. But that show, the Team Universe, after the prejudging, you always have people come up and say, "Oh, you won, you won." I learned kind of to tune that out, because your friends are just going to say that. They don't mean it in a bad way. They're just always going to say that. It's because they see all your positives. They're not really impartial. But I really felt like I'm actually going to win. Like, this is going to happen. I could tell by the way I was, the position I was put in prejudging. And then all my friends were like, "Well, you're going to win." And I was thinking in my head, I actually do think I'm going to win this time. And so I came back for the finals. And in the first class, they call out 5th place, 4th place, 3rd place. And I'm pretty sure I got it. Like, I'm like 99.9% sure I'm going to win. And when they called out 2nd place, I was in New York. The entire crowd went nuts. Now, I've been really fortunate. I've been really blessed because a lot of people have supported me and followed me, and particularly up around that New York area. And when they announced 2nd place and the crowd went wild, it was one of the most emotional experiences that I've had in bodybuilding, because all those years, all that work, all those 2nd places, it was all worth it. Right there, it was worth it. It happened. And so they announced me as a winner, and the crowd was going crazy. I had people getting backstage. They were all crying. I was surrounded by a bunch of people that were crying. I mean, it was madness. It was incredible. It was incredible. And then I won the overall. Then they brought me back out for the 2nd class. And there's kind of another pretty cool part of the story. So I win my class. And I actually had a client in that show, and he actually got second to me in that class. And I wasn't going to go back out. I was like, you guys aren't going to do the same thing that was done to me to Walter's. My client's name was Walter. I said, you guys did this to me at Masters Nationals where you kept the same guy out for 2 classes, and then I couldn't get my pro card. And I'm not going to do it to Walter. I've already got my pro card. I'm not going out on stage, and you can disqualify me or whatever. And so they went and talked to the head judge, and then they came back and they said, no, we actually changed the rule because of what happened to you last year, which I didn't even know about. But you are still going to be the winner. But since you're not eligible to get a pro card, whoever gets second will get a pro card. I said, okay, I'm cool. Okay, that because I just didn't want to shortchange somebody else. And oh, by the way, it just happened to be my client.
Sure.
So, so they announced me as a winner, and they said, since John already won his pro card in the other class, your new pro is Walter Martin. So Walter got his pro card, and so it was just icing on the cake, man. It was a great experience. I had waited so long to get my pro card. I went right into the pro shows. I competed 2 weeks later, got 5th place, the first pro show I did. And then I did another one 2 weeks later in Florida and actually got 3rd place out of 20 some guys. I beat a lot of guys that were in the Mr. Olympia. And then I competed another 2 weeks later after that, and I got 5th place again and in a really strong group. So my first 3 pro shows, I placed in all of them, and people are like, "Man, that was crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm trying to make up for lost time."
Yeah, you're thinking this should have been 10 years ago.
Exactly. So I'm like, I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to get right into it with these pros. So it worked out. It was an incredible experience. We talked about all the challenges and all that. And at that point in time, it just made it all worth it. And at any time I could have given up, but I didn't. And I was so glad I didn't give up.
Sure. So share with the listeners a little bit about Granite Supplements and about what it is that you do as far as private coaching, how they can get in touch with you, et cetera.
Yeah, I do. One of the things that I really love doing is I'm very passionate about training. And I don't think people give enough credit to training and actually how training can help you become a better body, not even just a bodybuilder, whether if you just want to put on muscle, it's bodybuilding is a sport that's, there's a lot of chemicals involved and people tend to rely on that as opposed to hard work. But I've always been very passionate about training. I've been writing the most probably detailed programs you could ever imagine for the last 7 years now. And I've got maybe 30 some 12-week programs that I've wrote. And those are kind of my baby that I sell. And, there's many, many people out there. There's thousands of people that are using my training and they enjoy it. I also have a website where I started it. I want to say I was still working in the corporate world at the time. I want to say it's about 7 years old now. And I have all the diets I do with people, the exact diets with, whoever I pick to do for the month, and tons of workouts, tons of really detailed scientific articles on anything you can think of, from cheat meals to leptin, whatever you can think of. It's very comprehensive. I do still coach people, but I've brought my numbers way down just because I'm so busy. So I generally have quite a long waiting list for that. It usually takes me a couple months to get to people. I still coach a lot of pros. One of my guys got into New York Pro last year, and nobody was talking about him. Or last week. He got 4th place. He beat a lot of Olympians. Josh Wade, he's headed out to California this weekend. And then I've always kind of loved supplements, man. Ever since back when I was younger, we didn't care what they actually tasted like. We just cared. We would eat anything or drink anything if we thought it would help.
Yeah.
And it's a different day today, buddy. Everything has to taste good and blah, blah, blah. But I've always been very interested in supplements because I don't think supplements are necessarily a game changer. But when you're talking about getting an extra 5% better or 10% better, then they can absolutely help you do that. And for me, it was always all about what can I do to get 100% of my potential. It's going to be to really learn how to train my body. It's going to be how to eat, and it's going to be some supplements involved. But so I started Granite Supplements, and I built formulas that I would take personally, and they're a little bit pricey compared to some of the really cheap stuff that's out there now, but the brand did really well. I think I've developed enough goodwill over the decades that people trust me, and we did really well. We had one of the bigger starts of any supplement company in our first year. It's a tough business, man. It's a really tough business. It's a hard business, especially when you have really good products, because you don't have quite the margins that the other guys have. But I've just stuck with it. It's, I think my motto is definitely not the get rich quick scheme, right? It's the same thing I've done my whole life. Is I'm going to have to work and work and work and grind and grind and grind, and that's how my supplement business is. It's we've done well, but we don't have the margins that some of these companies have. So I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to market out there to more people, and when we get people, they've got to like the products so that they stay with us. And so that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to create products that people love and that they'll keep buying them because they know it's not just getting their money on a one-time deal. And they got to see results. At the end of the day, people want to see results. So I've tried to build products that they can actually, get results from. And I don't think in the purchase. I don't think, okay, I'm going to make X number of dollars in this purchase. I think, what's the lifetime value of a customer? If I take care of this person, if I treat them right, if I do them right, and I could potentially, over the course of their lifetime, make a lot of money from the person, as opposed to just trying to max out how much money I can get from them on a one-time transaction. You know what I mean?
Sure. That makes sense. So how can our listeners get in touch with you? What social media, email? What's the best way for them to contact you, John?
Well, I would appreciate a follow on my YouTube. I do 3 videos a week, one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I've been working hard on it now for about a year. I think we're up to about 78,000 followers now. It's Mountain Dog One. My Instagram, I work hard on too. It's Mountain Dog One. I have tons of videos on my YouTube, training videos. There's nobody out there that's putting workout videos like me out there. So I appreciate a follow there and on my Instagram. And if you want to reach me though, the best way is through my email, which is also Mountain Dog One, and it's at live.com, live.com. I get a lot of social media messages, and unfortunately, I just don't see them all. They just come too fast. But I never miss an email. I never, ever miss an email. So that is the best way to reach me.
Awesome. Well, John, I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. I know that the listeners are going to be able to take away so much from this. I think that you exemplify fortitude and hard work. And like we talked about, that last 5% is going to be the hardest. But, you show what happens when you stick it out. So thank you so very much for your time.
Hey, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. All right, John, take care. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to my podcast. It means the world to me. I hope that you were able to take some things away from what we discussed here so that you can apply it to your life to become healthier and happier. Remember, every single day, every day, that you have greatness within you.